Over the next few minutes, we'll walk through the most important global events that actually matter for preparedness, why they matter, and what you can do calmly, rationally, and without fear-mongering. Let's get into it. Event number one: Larry Fink's warning on Iran war-driven oil extremes. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink warned that the Iran war could drive oil prices either down to about $40 per barrel if new supply comes online, or above $150, with either scenario triggering severe global economic consequences. Region affected is global financial system, especially energy import-dependent economies. Why it matters? Oil is the backbone of modern logistics. Doubling or halving crude prices reshapes everything from food costs and transport to inflation and interest rate policy. Preppers often overlook how financial stress can hit as fast as physical disasters. Prepping actions for affected region. If you are in high import or high debt country, assume your currency could weaken and inflation spike. Diversify essentials, purchasing across several months instead of waiting for sales. Maintain a modest cash buffer and a small stash of internationally tradable goods, meds, fuel, basic tools, as a hedge against hypervolatility. Review fixed cost commitments, loans, and leases, and look for short term ways to reduce fuel intensive spending. Global implications for preppers elsewhere. The Iran war scenario is a live test of how quickly geopolitical shock can pass through commodity markets into households. Preppers anywhere should treat oil price swings as an early warning signal for transport, heating, and food distribution breakdowns in vulnerable regions. Forecast for worst case scenario. A sustained oil price spike above $150 could trigger global recessions, sharp declines in consumer spending, and defaults in weaker economies, with governments leaning on price controls, rationing, and currency controls, all of which distort normal markets. The next event is EU delay on Russian oil ban plan. The European Union has delayed its proposal to ban Russian oil, citing the Iran war-driven energy price spike and broader supply chain pressure. Region affected is the European Union, especially Central and Eastern Europe, Russia, and key energy transit states. Why it matters? Delaying the ban signals that Europe still cannot fully decouple from Russian energy without risking even higher prices and shortages. This means energy security remains fragile, and contingencies like blackouts or fuel rationing are still on the table. Prepping actions for affected regions. Assume that winter heating plans must be flexible. Consider wood stoves, efficient insulation, and layered clothing as backups. Keep a modest fuel reserve, propane, butane, or diesel where legal, and a manual-powered lantern or stove. If you are in a border region that hosts energy transit infrastructure, monitor local news closely for any sudden changes in transit or sanctions enforcement. Global implications for preppers elsewhere. Europe's hesitation shows how quickly decoupling from an energy supplier can clash with day-to-day affordability. Other regions dependent on imported energy or vulnerable to sanctions warfare should study how Europe manages demand reduction and rationing as a playbook. Worst case forecast is if the EU suddenly reimposes a hard Russian oil cap, it could trigger a new energy price shock, deepen on the divide between energy secure and energy vulnerable states, and force more governments to consider domestic price controls or fewer rationing schemes. Let's switch to other events of today. The next event is Iran rejects US ceasefire plan. Iran dismissed a 15-point US ceasefire proposal via intermediaries, demanding its own terms as Israel airstrikes hit Iran and US troops deployed to Middle East. Region affected is Middle East, Persian Gulf, Strait Strait of Hormuz, 20% of global oil. which holds. Why it matters? Escalation risks oil shocks. Hormuz is a choke point where past disruptions spiked prices 300%. Prepping actions. Stock 3 to 6 months fuel. Secure home and energy backups like generators. Global implications. Oil at $100 plus per barrel hits food and transport costs worldwide. Test your supply chains now. Worst case forecast. Strait blockade leads to $200 per oil rationing in import dependent nations within